So I've been toying around with the thought of adding a deck or putting a deck here, something along those lines. So this right here, from the brick to the house, is just at 7 feet. And it's plenty big just to walk, but it's just not, it doesn't feel very big. And the rocks really suck for a rocking chair. It really just doesn't work. So I've been playing around with the thought of adding a wooden deck. I can't do a wooden deck here because I don't have the equipment to remove enough ground here to put a deck there. I only got about 4 inches and I hit solid ground, and I don't have a skid steer to remove all of this down another 6-8 inches. So I can't do that. But what I could do is leave the gravel here and build a deck onto it. Do a double up beam, butt it up against this, and then obviously the outside. But so the deck would be from there all the way to the end there, which is about 32 feet. Now this board, I just have it up just for a visual. That's actually a 10-foot board, and so it would go out an extra 2 feet past that. So it would be like a 32-foot by 12-foot when it's said and done. Let's see if I can get down here without busting my butt, because I'm tired of this stupid hill. You can see the grade of the hill pretty good right there. So it would come out about to here, which would totally make this horrible hill disappear. And what I was going to do is just take some of that big 6 to 12 inch rock and come all the way over here with it. But by the time I did all that, I would be well over $1,000 in rock just to cover this hill. And then I'm still don't have any more usable area up there. It just aesthetically will make it look better and make it to where I don't have to weed eat this entire stupid berm. So it would aesthetically make it look better, make it to where I don't have to weed eat it, but I still don't have any more usable space up here, and this sucks for the rocking chair, which actually is important to me. So if I just build a deck onto it, I mean, it wouldn't be physically attached, obviously, to the brick. It would be its own deck, but, you know, it would just be, I'd just do some kind of cat board up here and then just walk straight out onto the deck. That's a pretty tempting idea for me, because that would block, it would keep the grass from growing up through here. And it looks pretty bald and barren now, but it gets miserably high, and it's such a pain to weed eat, because it's just like walking on marbles. Every step you take, you're just wanting to slide down there, and it's just miserable just to walk down, let alone weed eat all the time. So a deck would, that would add a ton of square footage to this area. Aesthetically make it look nice. Deck boards would work great for rocking chairs. And I could do even a propane fire pit or something out on the deck too, if I ever end up having anyone over. Yeah, playing around with this idea. I've put together material costs. It's about $1,600 for a 12 by 32 deck, using 2x6 boards instead of actual deck boards. Which I've got a bunch of rebates built up, so I might end up just putting all my rebates toward this project. You know, I would have 3 different footers, one, and then in the middle, and then over there, and then same thing straight out in the middle. Then here, build 2 different beams, and my joists, 16-inch on centers. So it'd be about $1,600 in material, a little over, but that would not include the railings. I'm not 100% sure. I might go with cable railings or something like that. might not mess with any of them. It's my own dang house. So I'm not sure yet, but yeah, really considering this, because by the time I add $900 more of rock, that's half the cost of what it would cost me to build a deck, which would also add functionality here. So really heavily considering this. Okay, so I've been putting some thought into how this deck would have to be built, and I would have to do a flush beam and not a dropped beam. So the flush beam would have to be right up against these bricks with the joists butting up to the inside of the beam instead of sitting on top of the beam, because that would put the deck way up here unless I dug an extra 1.5 feet down this entire length to do a dropped beam. So I'm going to have a total of 8 posts spaced 8.5 feet apart. So 4 of them here and then 4 of them down there. And up here, I'm going to have to dig the sonotube, or the hole, down in here and get it to where my beam, so I'm going to have to do a little 6x6 post just to space it up to where my deck ends up flush with this. So probably end up with a, 8 or 9 inch 6x6 post on each of these spots to make sure that the beam is level and at the height that I need it to be here. And then I'll mirror that same thing down there. Just the 6x6 post will probably be like 7 or 8 feet tall, to get my deck level there. I'm going to have to use 2x10 by 12s for the joists to span that length. Alright, y'all, so just a quick update. I've been thinking a long time on how I want to build this deck at my own house. And it's going to be 34 feet wide, 12 feet out from this point. At some point, I'll probably do away with the gravel and dig out channels for all the joists and continue the deck flush all the way to the house. But for now, the gravel patio is staying, and it's just going to be from here out 12 foot. It's going to be a dropped post and beam frame, meaning I'm going to have a triple layer 2x10 beam, and then the joists are going to be sitting on top of the beam. So I had to dig extra deep to allow clearances, because I need the tops of my joists to be flush with this block here. I'm going to come over here and try and give you guys some more perspective so you guys can understand what I'm saying. So this berm, there we go. So you guys are level. So we're at about a 30-degree pitch right here. Down there, well, I'll get to that in a sec. So I'm having to dig these down to make clearances for all the framing to where the tops of the joists end up at the brick, which also means for the beam, I'm going to have to dig a channel connecting all these holes for the beam to sit in. Then the joists will sit on top of the beam. All these holes are roughly 12 to 14 inches wide by 43 inches deep. I've dug 5 of them, and I will dig another 5 in line with their holes there. So all of them are going to line up, and it'll be roughly 10 feet down this way will be my next set of 5. I'm not going to pour those yet or dig. I'm going to do the concrete on all these tomorrow, and that'll allow for roughly a 13-inch thick slab of concrete for the footer underneath, and then obviously posts and post bases and all that stuff. I'm going to dig these out to where there's not water running back in, so these will be channeled out. And yeah, so I still got a ton of work to do, but that's the progress so far. Everything is totally filthy. But I'll shoot another video whenever I get, probably after I get the concrete poured, and go from there. All right, y'all. So I went through and poured my concrete footers today, and they are, I did all, nope, don't you do that. She always wants to drop that right in my concrete. Either way, so I did all my math to figure out where my beam and joists are going to land me. And so that'll leave my footers about 12-inch thick by, 12 to 14. Shadow, stop. By 12 to 14 wide. So the footers are going to be plenty beefy. And then from there, I'll put a 6x6 base plate on there after it sets up. So it'll be maybe next weekend. Do my base plates for my 6x6s, and then do my 6x6 posts. I factored that the posts are going to be roughly 10 inches up from the concrete. Then from there, I'm going to do beam to post anchors, and I'll have to channel out the dirt connecting all the holes because the beam is going to be setting in there. So there's still quite a bit of work to do just for this first set of footers, but it's coming along good. Quick little update. Here's a thunderstorm coming. It's supposed to get a decent amount of rain. Luckily, I checked the weather before digging and pouring these holes here. So I went ahead and picked up 5 tarps. Menards was running a really good deal. It was a 6x8 tarp for $2. So I picked up one for each hole, and I've got them anchored down, and obviously they're all running downhill. So any water that hits these will just run straight over the hole, and ought to be totally fine. Just don't want to oversaturate my concrete. I need to get a couple blocks here to anchor this side down. But just quick update. Shouldn't change anything, but glad I took the precaution to go ahead and buy these. All right, well, that rain turned into an absolute monsoon. Didn't last all that long, maybe 30, 45 minutes or so. But the tarps definitely did not work. I came through here with the towel and mopped it up and just wrung it out because the water hadn't been sitting there all that long. And seems like it was sitting enough to get a good crust on the outside of the concrete. So it seems like it'll be totally fine, which is good. I wasn't expecting that amount of rain in that little bit of time. But anyways, seems like I can mop it out, and I think that it'll be totally fine. Alrighty, I got 90% of it mopped up. That's just the concrete footer right there, just a little bit of moisture. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to mop up 100% of it. Oh, here's Shadow's story again. So what had happened is, so all this ground up top is actually still dry. You can see it. So it actually just soaked through the water and then came in through the hole from underneath. So I imagine it came through up here, which I knew was a possibility that it could happen. But either way, I don't think that there's any real damage done. Come down here. This is just mud. You scrape that mud away and you still got a solid footer down there. So either way, I got 95% of the water mopped up. So I'm not going to be doing anything with this until maybe next weekend anyway. So it'll have a good week to totally dry out and start curing and stuff. So I'll know more whenever I come back here and drill a 1/2-inch hole in for the footers. So assuming everything obviously is good and hard on the outside and feels solid whenever I'm drilling through it for a 5.5-inch concrete anchor. As long as everything feels good and solid, I think we're in the clear. So little setback, but I don't think it's anything catastrophic. All right, y'all, so quick update. I've added the 6x6 base plates into all the holes. They're not fully tightened down, they're just a little snug. because whenever I put the beam in place, I'm going to have to wiggle it back and forth just to make sure I get one totally straight beam all the way across. Once I mock up the beam, I'll lift it up and tighten everything down to fully clamp the base plates into the concrete. There are my 6x6 footers. I've got those cut, just hadn't put them in yet. They are all a minimum of a 10-inch tall 6x6. And so now you guys can probably start to see my 3-ply beam is going to sit on here. It's going to sit up top like this, and I've got brackets to attach from here to the beam since there won't be room for a notch out. So my 2x10 slash 2x18 footers, beam boards are going to be sitting on here. So it'll come up 9¼ inches from there. And then from that point, I'll have my joists going on top of the beam like this. Should get me about flush with my brick right here, or block. So in order for me to put the beam in place, I now have to trench out the dirt connecting all these holes. So if I'm setting you guys on the block right here, obviously I can't put a beam here, so I need to channel out the dirt connecting all the holes, and then I'm good to start adding my beam brackets and building the beam. All right, y'all, so quick update. I've trenched, it's kind of hard to see, I think, with the shadow, but I've trenched from this post to this post, and from this post to this post. So I'm halfway done with my trenching. I still need to connect those two and those two. I did take my posts and this 2x10 here and bounce it around totally level all the way across when my posts are in place. So that's a good sign. Something else that I've done here, all my posts look the same. So I got my 6x6, and then I've got my 6x6 post to beam brackets here. They are galvanized steel. And what I've done is put butyl tape on the top of the 6x6 underneath the brackets, because tops of posts are really prone to rotting. And so this totally keeps the open grain on the end covered up and sealed. And so all of my posts look like that, and the bottoms of the posts will be elevated on the base plates. They're going to be elevated an inch high, so that won't be a problem. Just these little things like this will massively extend the life of your deck, and it's well worth the extra time and cost to do these steps. I'm still huffing and puffing, man. This digging's killing me. But I need to start anchoring these base plates and the posts in place and start creating my beam. And I need to dig that stuff out, but I'm just wore out. But anyways, that's where we're at. All right, y'all. Sorry, I'm huffing and puffing. Okay, so here, let me back you up here. So I've got 4 of the 5 footers placed. As you can see here, let me see if I can get you down there, show you. So we got a 6x6 base plate. I need to dig some of this stuff out around the base plate because it's just crumbling like that. But we got a 6x6 base plate, a 6x6. Then we have butyl tape on top of the 6x6 with 2 post to beam connectors, one on each side. See this, it just attaches to the back side of the beam. And this will be a 3-ply beam, so I'm going to have another one here and then another one here with staggered seams. Same thing here, so I'll have a seam here, but the middle board won't seam there. And, more of the same. I need to come through and dig out some of this gravel that's fell in there. Figure something out about that. But either way, so here is my 8-foot Stabila R level. Let's see where we're at. 100% perfect. And I've been checking as we go. So, like I said, I just have this last one here to go. Need to trench this out, connecting these two holes, set that post, then I'll be able to fully build my beam. But really pleased with how well it's turning out so far. So I am totally wore out. I've actually got to start getting cleaned up. I've got a dinner to go to. But that is the progress so far. All right, y'all. So here's another update. I do have my beam in place. Everything's fastened and such. Now, I've been debating different drainage solutions. But then I remember eventually this whole thing is going to have an awning over it. So within the next couple years, it won't hardly be getting any moisture in there anyway. And this ground contact treated lumber will last easily 15 years, totally just getting rained on and in the mud and stuff anyway. So I was debating trenching out all these holes and doing drain tile or corrugated tubing, whatever, just to allow drainage down there. But that is a ton of extra digging per hole. And then they would just be draining down there on my footers that I'm going to be doing down there. And so that's just a lot of extra work, cost, and something just for a short time that it's going to be an issue anyway. So what I've decided I'm going to do, I've just taken the shop vac, and basically I've just shop vac the entire thing on top of the beam, under it, beside it. I just took up cleared out the footers, all that kind of stuff. So what this whole berm is basically just road base. It's basically a combination of dirt and a ton of small rocks like that. Now, it's not just mud, but I want this to be able to dry out and drain faster than what that would allow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this gravel right here and backfill basically this entire thing, and that will allow more air to get down in there. It'll help stabilize the beam, support it side to side as well. So I'm going to fill up this entire trench, the footers, everything with this 1 inch white gravel right here. So that'll allow a lot better drainage and airflow and stuff down in there. And that'll also help the little critters that get down in there. I've pulled 6 frogs out of these holes, and there's just no way for them to get out right here. So I've been trying to think of a solution for that anyway. So if I just fill up the whole hole with these rocks, then that will alleviate that issue as well. So everything's in place. It is super solid. You can see I've cleaned out my footers really well with a shop vac. So next step is for me to start shoveling the gravel into the trench. The beam is perfectly level from over there to here. It is canted back toward the house just ever so slightly. So as I backfill the rock, I'm going to start on this side and use the pry bar and try and pry the beam up just a little bit, just to help straighten it out. And it'll also help once I put in the joist to tie over to that beam eventually anyway. But while I'm here and I'm backfilling, just as well try and straighten it up just ever so slightly. It's barely off anyway. Yeah, that is the progress, and I am super happy with how it's coming out so far. And time to pick up that darn shovel again. All right, y'all. So from that last update, I went ahead and done this. And so what I've done is I just took a lot of the gravel out of the gravel patio here and backfilled it on this side. The beam had a slight lean toward the house, so I've corrected that with the big pry bar And I was just prying and filling and prying and filling, get the beam nice and straight all the way. It's now totally plumb, and I've backfilled basically the whole thing. And so you have to keep in mind, I realize that ideally you don't want anything touching the wood. In this scenario, if I didn't backfill it with gravel, this sandy stuff will end up eroding and filling that up. That stuff doesn't drain half as good as what this white gravel does. So I'm picking the lesser of two evils here. And again, eventually, this will have a roof over the top of it anyway. So this is a good solution, given my scenario. And it did shore up the beam as far as wobble goes. It is rock solid, and it's not even tied to anything yet. So that's great news. I went ahead and I just now put my joist tape on, and that's covering all three 2x all the way down. Got my 8-foot Stabila level here, the R-beam. Come in here, see where we're at. Perfect. And that's just right there in the middle, but I've bumped it along, and it is perfect the whole way. So really, at this point, I couldn't be any more happy with how the beam has turned out. But man, it has been a ton of work just to get the beam in place. But the rest ought to be a lot easier, and I'll just continue building as funds allow. But this is a really good put the project on pause point for now. All right, y'all. So I've been contemplating on how to square up this beam down there with such a big elevation drop. It drops probably 5 feet or so in elevation from where I'm wanting those posts to up here. So I needed to square it out, but it's just awkward on this hill. So what I've done is I created a 12-foot by 12-foot speed square, and it has a lip right here, and so I just hook it on my beam. This keeps it square, and run it out. And what I've been doing, let me get down here. This is just my adjustable kickstand, so I can adjust it back and forth to get my board level. So when I get it in place up there against the beam, I've had this mark right here, so that's consistent on every time I slide my speed square down the beam. I'm always going to this mark, and then I plumb bob straight down and put a stake. So I've got 1, 2, 3. So there you go. Now you can see there's all my stakes, nice and in line here. So those are all totally square to my beam up here. I just have one more to do, so I need to slide my speed square down to the far end. But I know this is a unconventional way to square something up, but I've just been battling back and forth with having an accurate, easy method, and so this is what I came up with. If I were to run strings, I'd have to put 8-10 foot stakes into the ground or so, and then run lines way up here after trying to hammer really large stakes in the ground. So that was my problem. So I just made the adjustable kickstand here to help support everything. But yeah, that's been working really well so far, it seems. And I just have one more to do over there, and then I'll have my placement for my next set of 5 sono tubes. And then I'll have a cantilever over the end by about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet. It should be about 1.5 feet cantilever, and then same here, it'll cantilever over to that. So that's where I'm at now. All right, y'all. So I just finished digging my last 5 holes. Sorry, I'm huffing and puffing. So here's my last one here. You can see the tape down there. All of them are about 14 to 15 inches wide. even at the bottom. And they're all at least 24 inches from the bottom to here, which is the downhill side. So it's 24 inches from here down, not up there down. So, got 5 holes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and last is 5 right here. So, these are all in line right here. And that this will be totally square with that. So the next step, which will be happening next weekend, is I'm going to get sono tubes, 12-inch sono tubes, put them in here and pour concrete to get my footer set. I always like to do my holes wider by about 2 inches than my actual tube I'm using, because you don't want the hole exactly 12 inches in order to fit a 12-inch sono tube, because the sono tubes vary in size a little bit because they nest inside each other. So some are slightly bigger, some are slightly smaller. And either way, you want some wiggle room in your hole to be able to plumb your sono tubes. That way they're not canted one way and there's no room to straighten it up. So you want some room in the hole so you can get it plumb, then backfill around it to keep it plumb. Then you pour your concrete. So, yeah, that's the progress. All right, so quick update. I've just set all 5 sono tubes and got them in a good straight line, and I've plumbed all of them. And once all that was done, I backfilled around them. And how I get them plumb is, it starts off, you're holding the level up on it, and then I put a rock on each corner and just slowly level one side at a time to get them all plumbed up. And then I backfill after double checking that it's plumb in both sides of the sono tube. So I've done that, backfilled. I've not filled them with concrete or anything yet. So I just cut up my rebar, and basically these are the patterns that are going to be set inside the tube, just kind of like little TPs almost. So I'll set these up, set them inside the sono tube, and then pour around them. Some of these may need to be cut down. They might be just a little bit tall. Those are 4-foot sono tubes, 2 feet in the ground, and I'm not filling them all the way up. So I'm going to cut them down some, but I haven't figured out where I want that yet. So depending on how high I want the sono tubes themselves, because I would like them all to be pretty well level with each other. It doesn't make a difference as far as function goes, because I'm going to have 6x6 posts and stuff over there to get my beam level. But as far as just aesthetics go, I'd like my concrete plane to be pretty well level all the way across. So I'm getting ready to figure out where I want that to be, and then I will make sure that all of my rebar fits in there, and set those and start pouring. Okay, so I have found my level line that I want, and I've marked them with a screw on each one, because all my footers, just so I can explain this for some people who may not understand, like this footer, the ground level is lower than what it is here. They're all dug 2 foot down from the ground level down, but that causes the tubes to sit uneven if the ground obviously goes like this. So I've found my level line that I would like all the sono tubes to be the same height, or at least the concrete of them. And I've placed a screw in there so you can see. Hopefully I can show you guys this. I don't know if it'll show up or not. There we go. So you can see my screw, and that's when I know to stop pouring concrete. And you can see my rebar down in there, and all of them same setup. got our screw to tell me when to stop pouring concrete, and then got the rebar in there. And I'll be the first to admit, I'm not a concrete guy. I know how to pour footers and I know how to do them up to code. But I'm not going to be 100% perfect top, 100% level all the way across. I'm just not to that degree of a concrete guy. But this will get them visually looking all the same. And that's why I'm doing this extra step anyways, just for the aesthetics of it. So now I need to get the concrete mixer, bring it down here, get everything set up. And the sonotube calculator said I would need like 36 bags of 60 pound bags. And I always use on my decks, I always use the 5,000 PSI concrete. Just makes me feel better. Ooh, about wiped out. Just makes me feel better having high strength concrete. And so that's what I always use. So now for the fun part. All right, so it's been a few weeks since I've done any work. I think the last you guys seen, I had the sonotube cardboard on there. So I'm just picking up from there. So I just ripped off all the sonotubes, and then I've laid, let me see if I can get down here. So I've ripped off the cardboard on all the sonotubes, and then I put my base plates down with, obviously they're anchored to the concrete. And then I've put in all my posts, and then I put my post to beam connectors on. Well, I did that after I did the butyl tape on all the tops, structural screws, attaching those. And so now, I mean, this whole process is exactly identical to that, just almost all of that is below grade. So now it's time for me to start piecing my beam together. All right, guys, so I have installed my beam now, but I wanted to show you before I cover it up with tape. My seams are staggered right here. So what I've done, let me try and back up, give it perspective. What I've done is 10 foot, 18 foot, 10 foot. Then the middle course is an 18 foot, and then 18 foot. And then the outside is 10 foot, 18 foot, and then 10 foot. So they're staggered, just like I did the one here behind me. Here's my 8-foot Stabila level. Looking dang near perfect. I just have to hit my bracket screws, which I'm going to as soon as I stop this video. But here's my beam. So yeah, I just need to come through here and hit these post to beam plates in on this side, and then my beam is totally done. I've not stepped back down here and looked at my sonotubes or anything yet. So yeah, I'm glad I took the time to make them look level. I mean, there's slight variances, but from one all the way to the other, there might be a 1/2 inch height difference in the concrete. So I'm really pleased with that. Just looks good and clean. So yep, just got to hit these nails in, and then I'm going to put my joist tape up top, just like I did that one. And then this part of the project's done. All right, y'all. So I've got the beam taped up and finished up, and these are the cut to 144 inches. Right now they're not set in any particular way. I'm just using them to shore everything up, make sure the beams don't move or anything, because this beam and the posts are all plumb right now. And so I tacked these in on both sides just to hold everything in place. But these are the correct size that I'm going to be using for my joists. I'll just have to obviously buy more to fill in. But it's probably going to be a while before I can continue with this project. So I just wanted to make sure everything was held in place. So basically, it's just the next step will be buying a bunch of joists, setting them in here, put my rim boards on, and square the thing up and continue with the framing. But this will be a super nice deck by the time I'm done with it. Super excited. I'm pleased. Let's just grab this level real quick. There was a lot of math going from one beam to the other. So I'm just jumping across the joists here. That is 100% perfect from measuring from there down to the holes, everything up. Super, super happy. Could not be any more pleased with that. And I guess until next time. All right, y'all. Sorry, it's really windy. I hope you guys can hear me. So it's been a while since I've worked on the deck. Was waiting for some Menards rebates to come in. So I got some. And so I'm finally getting to at least build the outer perimeter of the frame and get it squared on my beams to the house. And so I did two 18-foot 2x10s here, and then I did a double layer 2x10 by 18 there, and that's just so my deck boards that overhang the edge have a little bit more material there to help support it, where I don't need it back here. So everything is square. I did the 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5, 3, 4, 5. And then after I did all that and got that dialed in, I measured diagonally, corner to corner, and I'm within 3/16 of an inch of being 100% square. So I'm totally happy with that. The total width is 34 feet, 2.5 inches. This will be my center point where there's going to be a breaker board here. So it's just, there's not going to be seams except for everything just dies to the breaker board in the middle. It's not going to be a staggered seam. So whenever I'm able to get more material, I'll come back and fill in the rest of the joists and finish my blocking for my breaker board. Yeah, it's turning out really good. It's amazing how much more perspective just putting the perimeter on it really gives so much better sense of feel for how big this deck will be. So this will be super nice. Really looking forward to this project, getting it done. All right, guys. So I've gotten quite a bit of progress done on my deck. I went ahead and got all the joists in. They are 16-inch centers. I went ahead and did the breaker board blocking, and I ran out of lumber when I had like 6 or 7 bays left, so I hadn't been able to finish the blocking. I'll need to go pick up some lumber for that, but everything's feeling super, super solid. I'll show you guys what I got going on over here. So here's the blocking, looking nice and straight. No one's going to see it, but I still appreciate it. I'm using these inside corners. I've got 8 of them. This corner, there at the seam, there, and then same thing other side. So 8 inside corners. I'm using joist hangers, and I've not put the toenail screws in yet because I need to go buy some. But I'm using hangers on both sides. I miscounted and missed the hanger there, so I'll need to go grab one. But I've got hangers on both sides of the deck, along with these different style hurricane ties, I guess you'd call them. I like how they grab both sides, and they're a lot more sturdy than the hurricane ties are as far as walking on them, because you can't walk on joists that are only held on by hurricane ties because it'll fall over. But you actually, well, at least I can walk with just these on there. So decided I'll just try them out on my deck and see if I like them well enough. Then I can start using that on other people's decks. I'm always looking for ways to improve. So that's something slightly different than what I normally do. So between the joist hangers, the hurricane ties, and just this not being a super huge span, and then also having the blocking in here, major overkill. But I mean, this thing is just rock solid. I mean, there's just no movement on it, and that's before I even get my deck boards on. So super excited about how this is turning out. I very much would prefer to overbuild something than to underbuild and be disappointed and barely save any money. So these little things go a long way as far as having a good sturdy deck, and they just hold up better. I've tore apart so many decks that they don't use hardware and just use face nails going into the end grain of the boards, and they're always just horribly cupped and misshaped, and it's just not safe. It's just not a good place to cut money. You know, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, that's a progress so far. Just need to go pick up another board, probably do that tomorrow. Finish that, and then put that one hanger on, put the toenail screws into my joist hangers going into the rim boards there, and then from there I'm able to start taping, and all the framing is done aside from handrails, which that'll be a different section anyway. So yep, that's that. Alrighty, y'all. So I have put my toenail joist hanger screws on all the joist hangers. I put in that one joist hanger there that was missing right there. And obviously I've just finished taping everything. Started at 3 o'clock, hour and 45 minutes to tape all this. Taping takes a surprising amount of time that I don't think most people realize. But I do think it's important to do. And then I finished the blocking over there. So framing is totally done with the exception of my posts. I do have the 6x6s, but I'm trying to decide how I want my posts and railings to be. Preferably, I just have a post there and a post there. It's too big of a span how you typically do railings, but I don't really want to put one in the middle. So I'm trying to figure out different ideas on how to make that work. Obviously, I'll have posts here. But either way, I have the material to do it. Just not going to do that yet until I decide how I want the handrails done yet. I did notice that, so these are it's all flat right here. But right here, this is sitting a little bit higher than this joist here. So I might grab a hand planer and plane this down a little bit. I haven't measured to see if it's enough that I actually care about or not, but I did notice it whenever I was taping it. Then it goes back to flat over this way, so it's just kind of a hump right there in the middle. Presumably these might have just, I don't really know what caused it, but anyway, I'll address that if it's going to be an issue. But yep, there it is. It's looking great. Alrighty, y'all. So another update. I have installed all of my posts, and I believe they're 6-inch by 3/8 of an inch, maybe half-inch lags, galvanized lags. And I've used 2 to 3 on each post, just depending if it's a corner or not. But even just at that, they're really solid just as is, which is always nice. And then over here, I just finished laying down the decking and cut my nice straight line for my breaker board. And then finished cutting the overhangs right here. Perfectly straight line, looks great. I left an inch overhang on this side, and it's looking really nice. This thing feels about like walking on a concrete patio. I mean, there's just no bounce or anything in this, and I love that. Over here, you see a couple different things. Man, it's cold outside. So I've switched my plans a few different times as far as the railings go, because I really hate how much of a view I lose with this 2x6. Now, typically how you would do these is you'd have a 2x4 on its side like this, and then a laid flat 2x6 on top of it, which is pretty close to the same width as a 2x6 on its side. So I just use this for representation, and I'm losing a huge amount of view with that, and I hate that. And I needed something beefier for these spans here, because I didn't put a post in the middle, just on the ends. It's too long for standard 2x4 with the 2x6 on top of it, and I don't like those style railings anyway. So I was actually looking at either a 4x6 or a 6x6 with a bracket in here and just butting up to the insides of the posts and having, you know, just a huge beefy railing. And then these are actually going to have caps on top of them. I normally don't make my railings like that, just because most people like to just have a flat rail. But in this case, I decided to go with some black caps. And so whatever railings I decide to do are actually going to go from the inside of the posts to the inside of the posts. So then I had the thought, so since I decided that is not what I'm going to go with, I had some 1.5 by 1.5 by 3/16 wall thickness square tubing right here. And obviously it's just sitting on top right now. I was just trying to get a visual difference, and this thing takes up 3 times the view that this does. You know, and it's right at eye level, which is just so irritating. Anyways, so I got this and was just curious if something like this could work. And I've actually got right here in the middle, and make sure I'm on my post, so I'm going to slide off. And I can lean on this post fully with all my weight, and it might droop 1/2 inch, maybe. And I'm 170 pounds or so, and there is no fear of this critically failing with that weight. And there's never realistically going to be that much weight on it. So, as of now, what I've decided to do is I will plan to go with 2-inch by 2-inch by 3/16 wall thickness. And I've found some 2-inch wide steel brackets that I like the look of. That'll go, you know, from here, and it has like a 45 that goes up here. And so it'll just screw into the railing and then into the post and be clean up top. And I will take some sheet metal and weld a cap on the end. That way water doesn't get in and want to rust it out the inside. And I will just clean it and paint it. That is what I'm thinking, leaning toward doing for my railings. And cost-wise, going with what I just said is almost identical as what I was going to do over here anyway. So, yeah, that is the majority of the update. It's coming along really, really nice. All my, I don't know if you guys can see this on camera or not, my screw lines are perfectly straight in all directions. I measure every single screw to where they are all identical. The only problem is, at this point, I am totally out of Menards rebates. Up till this point, about 90% of this project has been funded with rebates I've been saving up from different jobs that I've sold and stuff. So I'll need $700-800 or so for the deck boards on this half. But that will be out of pocket, so I'm just gonna have to pluck away at that or see what my tax returns ends up looking like. But yeah, super excited with how it's coming out. And for now, I still have a usable section of the deck that I can actually rock on, and I have this to look out on. Super stoked with it. Hey y'all, so I have finished all the decking on my deck. I think the last you guys have seen is I had that section done. So I went ahead and finished this, and added the breaker board right here in the middle. I'll probably take a sander to the black mark there, clean that up a little bit. But it has turned out nearly perfect. I don't know how much you guys are going to be able to see on here, but hopefully with the sun hitting, it'll show a little better. But all my screw holes are perfectly in line this way and this way, and it continues from this section of the deck to that section of the deck. I don't know if any of that's showing up or not, but there's that way, and same thing here. I can't really see the screen very good. I got dark sunglasses on right now. But anyway, there's that. And I don't know if you guys have seen these 6x6 caps that I put on here. They're aluminum caps off of Amazon, but they're actually just super basic, but seem pretty sturdy. They're not like flimsy feeling or anything. I've got my cut lines nice and clean there. Let me take you to the far end here. This thing just feels like you're walking on like a concrete slab. It is just so solid. All right, see if I can not bust my butt here. Yeah, there we go. So there's a lot of things you got to keep in mind when you're building a deck this way, and it's magnified a bunch using regular lumber instead of composite. Things you got to look out for is you need these lines to continue across the breaker board and look straight, right? You want one continuous line from here over the breaker board and continuing on all the way up. And so you have to keep this straight and not only have that section be a straight line, because it can be a straight line, but it can be canted one way or another. So it needs to be one continuous straight line all the way from one end of the deck all the way to the other end. And the lumber varies quite a bit, actually, and people don't really realize it in their dimensions. And it can be up to 5/16 to 3/16 of its width different from one board to another. And so you have to kind of hop your boards around to do your best to make them match the one that it's butting up to over here. And so you have to watch those couple things while you're also measuring from the rim board back to whatever piece of decking you're on to make sure that your overhang is remaining the same all the way across, and the same thing with your overhang on this side is consistent all the way across. So there's a lot of different things you have to do to make sure that it aesthetically looks right. And these boards, there's clamps you can use to push these boards into place, but if you put too much pressure on, say, the middle of the run, you can bow it like this, or like this rather. And obviously I'm exaggerating the bend, but if you put too much pressure on the middle of the board and not enough on the ends, you're no longer running a straight line because you've bent your boards, and every single one will have a cup shape to it. I've seen that on other decks as well. So it's really important to constantly measure, reference your previous boards, and measure off your rim boards to make sure everything is staying nice and consistent. And yeah, a lot of that probably doesn't make sense to anyone who doesn't dabble in this stuff. But if you do, hopefully you understood what I was saying. Anyway, so the last thing to do are going to be the handrails and then the cable rails. So I've decided that I'm going to go with a 2" by 2" by 3/16 wall thickness square tubing as my top rail. And I've got some brackets, kind of like some right angle brackets, that will sit against the board like this, and then my top rail will sit on top of the bracket, and then these will just be cable railings here. But this top rail is not conventional of what you would see, but I had a few different things that I needed to work through that I'd already talked about earlier in the video. But either way, I've decided on the 2" by 2" tubing for this, and the brackets I'm using are rated for like 1,000 pounds per pair, so they're plenty heavy duty. But either way, I'm gonna have to do some welding and stuff, because whenever I cut my square tubing, I'm gonna have open ends, so I'm gonna have to cap them and weld them and sand them and all this stuff and paint them to make them look nice and keep the water out from running inside of them. But either way, that's the solve I'm going to go with for this. And the cables and the top rails, all of it combined, it was right at $1,000. I already have the brackets, so I need about $850 or so to finish the rest of this project. So after a couple more paychecks, hopefully I can continue on with this project. Thanks for watching, guys. All right, small update. I wasn't even planning on working on this yet, but I already had the stuff and just kind of happened. So I went ahead and installed my top handrail brackets. Here they are. They're 1/4 inch thick. I can't see if you guys can see that at all or not. But I used my laser level there in the middle, leveled my posts, and then from there I was able to get a level line shooting the laser all the way across my different posts. And maybe this direction you guys can see a little bit better. But that is what they look like. They're rated for like 1,000 pounds per set. And so my handrail, my 2" by 2" handrail will sit right here. These are 2 inches wide. So it'll be just about right here. And I got self-tapper screws that I'll shoot in underneath it. And this is taking 6 inches per side off the span. So I mean, it's really a foot less of a span since it's supported that much on each side. But something small, but it did take a little bit of time to do. But I'm glad that I went ahead and knocked it out, because I really don't like doing these little tedious things like that. But that's knocked out. Hey y'all, I just want to throw this in here real quick. So I'm working on my top handrails, and I'm not going to get into the details of those yet. But I'm having a little bit of issues, specifically with my corner posts, getting them plumb both ways. So what I've done is I've loosened the screws holding the post in, and I've taken a ratchet strap to pull it to that one. All those are all temporarily fastened, so I'm not going to pull all those this way. So this one, by tightening the ratchet strap, and pull it that way to get it plumb this way. And then that's my temporary shim right there to push it out that way. And so that'll plumb that post, and then from there I can use this one to pull this one this way if need be. So I'm having to, I started off with 2 posts that were totally plumb, and then from there I've just been working my way, pulling post by post to get them closer to plumb. They were already pretty close, but the corner posts in particular are my trouble posts. But anyway, this is how I'm doing that. And because I'm having to get them plumb, I'm having to take a Sharpie and mark my 4 holes underneath. Then I'm having to take the post over there, drill 4 holes on each side, and then come back and put my self-tapper screws in. So it's quite a bit different in practice than just a wooden top rail. Those are pretty easy just to screw into the top of your board, whether it's here or the 6x6, and just pull it and get them plumb. Definitely not the case here with steel. But either way, this is working, so I'm going to keep at it. Hey, y'all, just quickly wanted to show you that I am sanding or using an angle grinder with a flap disc and 40 grit flap disc at that. So something really aggressive. And I'm just trying to take this scale off the raw steel. So here's before and after. Hopefully that shows up. So I'm not going for perfection or anything, just trying to get this scale off the raw steel and give me something good and clean to use my primer, and then my paint will go on it. So that's what I'm doing now. I've got 4 of the 6 handrails sanded down now. So I have 2 left to do, and luckily I have a lot of batteries because this uses them up. So as I start using them, as soon as one runs out, I just go put it on the charger, grab another one, and so far it's kept me going. So yeah, that's the progress so far. Alrighty, y'all. So I have pretty much finished my top handrails, and here's how they're looking from afar. Looking really, really nice. There was quite a bit of work. I've been working on them all day, and it's 3:30, and I started at like 7 o'clock this morning. Actually, even started yesterday. But good straight lines. Looking really, really nice. Now, that right here is about a 12-foot span, give or take. And I can sit right in the middle of that, feet off the ground and everything, and it barely even moves. Super, super solid, and that's exactly what I needed for such a big span. These are sturdier than any railings you're going to be able to buy, any railing kits. These are much, much sturdier. So super, super glad that I went with this method. You can't see it here, but so this is 2 inch by 2 inch tubing, as you guys know, but I cut a bunch of 1/8 inch flat stock and welded end caps on to all of these. That way all the ends are closed, so water and wasps and crap don't get in there. So they are capped on the end. The fasteners are right here. Got 4 going into the 6x6s and 4 going into the tubing. I did pre-drill the tubing, but even at that, I still had probably 7 or 8 screw failures trying to get all of them in. There's a few that I still need to address. I think 4 in total. Let's see if you guys can see that. That screw right here snapped off, so I need to take some vice grips and pull that out and get a new one in there. And this was my main problem right here. So again, they were all pre-drilled, but my screw, the self-tapper bit built into the screw, as soon as I would start it, would just instantly snap off. And that kept happening, leaving me with a plugged hole. And sometimes I would try and drill it out and it worked, and then I got a new screw in place, and other times it would snap my bit in half, and then I got my bit stuck in there. Typical self-tapping metal screws, you always have these issues. But either way, I have 4 total that I'd still need to address, but that is a problem for not right now. Yeah, this is how she's looking super, super sharp. I'm just really excited about this. So really, all that's left at this point is, whenever I get the funds, go ahead and order the cable railings and get all those installed all the way around. That's going to be about $450 or so for all the material for the cable railings. But yeah, that's that. Alrighty, y'all. So this will be the last part of the deck build video. I've just finished up my cable railings, and you can see how nice the view is through those cable railings. I went with the 1/8 inch black stainless steel cable railings. And I know there's a few different versions and I've used different kinds, but I really like this system where it has the adjustable crimp on this side. This tensions the cable. And on this side, it has just a crimp, nothing adjustable here. So you have a crimp and an adjustable crimp right there. And then here, they're just drilled all the way through the posts, and they come with these little black stainless steel ferrules or trim pieces. Functionally, they're not needed, but they do make it look really nice versus having just a hole in the wood there. And then you got the adjustable tensioners right there. Looks super, super good. Now, I intentionally, this is my personal deck, and I intentionally planned to leave this window right here. Yes, it's technically out of code. I'm not worried about it in the slightest. If I were doing this professionally as my business for a client, I would not do this. But me, my personal deck, out where I live, I think I'll be totally fine. So that's the deck itself. It took me about 14 working days from start to finish, meaning digging holes to this point. Now, in real time, it took me 3.5, 4 months to be able to fund all of this. But working days, it took me right at 14, what I would call 14 working days. And it's turned out just about perfect. Just for anyone who might care. Again, this is a 34 by 12 deck made with 2x6 construction, not deck boards, but actual 2x6 for the deck boards, and 2x10 joists with the triple 2x10 beams down here. And just giving you guys just kind of a little bit of an underlook. But cost-wise, this cost me right at $5,400, all labor. Sorry, all material. Obviously, I'm not paying myself for labor. So material-wise is about $5,400 start to finish, and 14 labor days to build it up, start to finish. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys have any questions or anything, feel free to ask. If you guys leave a stupid, ignorant comment, I'll delete it and move on with my life. Thanks for watching, guys.